Parshas Vayakhel Pikudei, big week this week. If you are a person that holds that you need a special kugel for every special event of the Shabbos, then you can really, honestly, you're going to gain a lot of weight this Shabbos. This Shabbos, Parshas Vayakhel Pikudei Chazak Parshas Hachodesh. There's a lot going on, so if you need a variety of kugels, it's probably, you can get started over here. Behind me, work around the counter. They could turn a lot of the things you see back here into a kugel. With enough time, you can do anything. The Pasuk says in Parshas Hachodesh, Hachodesh hazeh lochem roish chodashim rishon hu lochem l'chodshei hashana. That's the Pasuk beginning Parshas Hachodesh. So Nesiv Shalom says, we know in general, we know that each of the Dalet Parshas, the 4 special portions that we've been reading after the Parsha of the week, each of the Dalet Parshas are an entire lesson in Avodah that applies even till today. It applies till today. We have Parshas Shkolim. The Medrash Tanchuma actually lists them off. And the Medrash Tanchuma says that by Parshas Shkolim each year, what does it represent? It represents the fact that it's as if Klal Yisrael is being counted each year, as if Moshe Rabbeinu. The Medrash goes through exactly how it works with Parshas Shkolim, but suffice it to say that the Medrash says that every year in Parshas Shkolim, it's as if Moshe Rabbeinu, and we're counting the Yidden once again. Parshas Zachar, we know, Parshas Zachar is an eternal mitzvah of Mechias Amalek. It's not something that was only Nageya back then. It's a Parshas Zachar. Of course, it applies to today. We still have the mitzvah of Mechias Amalek. Parshas Parah. What is Parshas Parah? Parshas Parah teaches us the lessons of Tahara. Even though we do not actually have the Parah Aduma today, but when we read Parshas Parah, many Mefarshim say when we read Parshas Parah, it's as if we performed the Parshas Parah. It teaches us the lessons of Tahara. So now that we went through those 3, how would we explain, how would we look at Parshas Hachodesh in the realm of Avodas Hashem? How would Parshas Hachodesh that we're going to learn this week fit in? Also, why does the Parsha begin by telling us that it took place be'eretz Mitzrayim? Why is that negayah to us? It's very seldom in the Torah. Usually the Torah does not give us a geographical location of where something's being said. However, by Parshas HaChodesh, the Parsha begins by saying be'eretz Mitzrayim, that it started in Eretz Mitzrayim. Another question the Nesiv Shalom asks is that seemingly there's a double lashon in the Pasuk. The Pasuk says, HaChodesh hazeh lochem, and then Rishon hu lochem. Right? It says the word lochem twice in the Pasuk. Rashi says, even if you haven't learned that much, like sometimes if you're being Mavasedra, we start being Mavasedra. It happens to be this week is one of the toughest weeks of being Mavasedra. You have to really plug away. It takes time. Very, very long Parshas this week. But those that learn the Rashi also, so even if you don't get too far into the Chumash, there's a very famous Rashi, beginning of Parshas Bereshis. Rashi says that really Hachodesh hazeh lochem is the first mitzvah of the Torah. And since Hachodesh hazeh is the first mitzvah of the Torah should have begun with Hachodesh hazeh lochem. Right? But then the Torah says that we start with Bereshis and not with Hachodesh hazeh lochem. Rashi explains that. But by the very fact that Rashi says that the Torah should have begun with Hachodesh hazeh lochem, it must be that there's something very special, aside from the fact that chronologically it was the first mitzvah to be given. It must be something very special about HaChodesh hazeh lochem, that Itaka was first, and it would have been right for the Torah to start, the Torah to begin with HaChodesh hazeh lochem. So the Nesiv Shalom answers all these questions with a beautiful, beautiful thought and something that will cover all of the things we just asked and spoke about. He says like this: there are many times throughout the year that a Yid is able to stop and start, begin anew. There are many times, he says, Shabbos and Yom Tovim was set up for that purpose. Every Shabbos, you can sort of, I don't know if necessarily use the word tshuva, but every Shabbos you'd stop and you could say, you know, the course that I was taking, I've been veering off course a little bit. Shabbos you stop and you head back in the direction you want to head back in. Yom Tovim, each Yom Tov has a special air about it, each Yom Tov is mesugel in a certain way, again, to change, to improve yourself, to start to work that way. However, the Nesiv Shalom says, Hachodesh hazeh lochem is the Rosh Chodashim. The Pasuk tells us straight out that it's Rosh Chodashim. Yes, Shabbos is a time to stop and you could change your life. Yes, Yom Tov is a time to stop and you could change your life. But HaChodesh Hazeh Lochem Rosh Chodashim. Rosh Chodesh Nisan. HaChodesh Hazeh is, so to speak, in a language maybe that we would understand, that we've used, it's, so to speak, like the mother of all his chachos. You have a hischachos of Shabbos, you have a hischachos on Yom Tov, but HaChodesh Hazeh Lochem Chodesh Nisan is more, you have more of an opportunity to renew yourself than at any other time. Chodesh Nisan is more mesugel than any other time for his chachos. And even for things that you may have done, a person falls, a person has their ups and downs, for even things that are tough, where you believe that they might be impossible to come back from, Chodesh Nisan, HaChodesh Hazeh Lochem, you're able to do it. The Mechilta is a beautiful Mechilta in Parshas Boy. The Mechilta tells us that when we say HaChodesh Hazeh Lochem, what are we referring to? The Mechilta in Parshas Boy says like this: the Yidden revolve their year and count. The Yidden count with the Levana, with the moon. We base our calendar on the lunar calendar, and the Goyim, the Umas Ha'olam, operate their calendar, and they operate by the solar calendar. They operate by the sun. Okay, we know that. You ever wonder why? Why is it that we go by the moon, and that the Rebbeinu Shalom set up the world, that Klal Yisrael goes basar, the lunar calendar, and the Goyim go with the sun? So he says like this, there's a remez in that, to the difference between the Umas Ha'olam and Klal Yisrael. It says like this: the sun never changes. The sun, the way it is, and the way it was at Brias Ha'olam, is the same way that it is today. The sun never changes. The sun is constant. But the moon, the Levana, is in a constant state of change. It's constantly changing and constantly renewing itself. You notice there are small changes every day. You may not notice it if you're watching the moon. You may not notice it on a minute-to-minute basis, but there are small changes in the moon every day. And then there's the large change of Rosh Chodesh when it has totally disappeared, and all of a sudden it reappears, it comes back. Zot Nesiv Shalom, a Yid is the same way. Every moment in the life of a Yid is an opportunity to change and to grow. We're constantly moving, we're trying to move up, we constantly have the opportunity, we are changing people. And you know what? He says, by a Yid, even when it seems like it's really dark, like at the end of the month sometimes, it feels like it's very, very dark, but a Yid knows that in one moment, as soon as it gets to the darkest point of the month, in one moment it's going to begin getting light again. And the Umas Ha'olam, they count with the sun. It never changes. So when it gets dark for a Goy, when it gets dark for the Umas Ha'olam, then they fall into despair, because there's no chance for change. Everything's a constant, and the way it is, that's the way it is. And we've spoken about this Kusta de Chiyusa a few times, where the Nesiv Shalom refers to like the last breath, when you put a seed in the ground, before the seed begins to grow, it rots and it rots and it rots, and that's the way the world, the Teva, was set up. And then at the last second, before that seed is lost forever, it sprouts. It begins to spring to life. And what is the Kusta de Chiyusa of every Yid? The Kusta de Chiyusa, the last thing of life, the spark that we have, is the spark of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in every Yid's neshama. In other words, you have the opportunity that even when you're about to go out, you're down and out, it's almost over, you have the opportunity right then to renew yourself. And only a Yid, Zok the Nesiv Shalom, who operates with the Levana, with the mentality of the Levana, that we're constantly changing, and we can always change the way we are, only a Yid has this koyach of Ischachus. So the Nesiv Shalom says that we ask, when Rashi says, Hachodesh Hazeh Lochem, and Hachodesh Hazeh Lochem, we said, must have been special if the Torah should have started with Hachodesh Hazeh Lochem, that it's the mitzvah Rishoina. Rashi says that it's the mitzvah Rishoina. Zok the Nesiv Shalom, it has a much deeper meaning than what we mitzvah Rishoina in a chronological order, the first mitzvah to be given. Mitzvah Rishoina means that there's a life's lesson that's inherent in this Hachodesh Hazeh Lochem. What does it tell you? That in any matzav, you're able to renew yourself. You're able to start over. So that, and Zok the Nesiv Shalom, that is the yesod of life. Therefore, when Rashi says that the Torah should have started with Hachodesh Hazeh Lochem, Rashi's telling us that it's a yesod of life, and you can't go further until you understand that. The Torah is telling you that until a person understands that you have this koyach of Ischachus, Hachodesh Hazeh, that no matter how bad you get, and no matter how many bad things you may have done, you can change. Until you do that, that's the mitzvah Rishoina. You can't go on to the next thing until a Yid understands that you always have the opportunity to improve yourself. And the Torah is madgish. We ask, why did the Torah tell us where this was? Why does it say Be'eretz Mitzrayim? He says for the same reason the Torah tells us it's in Eretz Mitzrayim. The Torah is telling you in Eretz Mitzrayim, which was the lowest of the Tumah, right there, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told us, Hachodesh Hazeh Lochem. You think you're so bad, you're in the Memtes Shari Tumah, you think things are terrible, you think you're lost. No, Be'eretz Mitzrayim, right there, just when you think you can't do anything about it anymore, you have the chance. In that pasuk, in the severe darkness of Mitzrayim, right there, they were told about the koyach of Ischachus. And we asked also why the pasuk says, the pasuk reiterates the word lochem. That's to tell you, because a person might think that it says Hachodesh Hazeh Lochem, and it's talking to Klal Yisrael in general. It's talking to the people who are be'etzim really good. They make a mistake once in a while. The Nesiv Shalom says, Hachodesh Hazeh Lochem, it's that type of month of Ischachus. The Nesiv Shalom says that the pasuk comes and tells us the word lochem, again, to tell you to every single one of you. Lochem, to you, and to you, and to you. Not just to Klal Yisrael in general, to every person, no matter what matzvah they are in, they are able to extricate themselves from their problems. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us this Chodesh of Nisan that was going to be starting this week, the Yontif of Pesach, and the Yemei HaSvira after that, to give us this opportunity to work on ourselves and renew ourselves. And just one thought, I want to take the last minute to think of something. So most people, when you listen to this shiur, you say, yeah, Avada, we could have a koyach of Ischachus, I could change. But I'm just thinking, what a person has to realize is that the same way you give yourself the opportunity and you say, yeah, I can change even if I'm bad, you have to realize that everybody around you can also change. Sometimes you see a person do something wrong, he did something wrong when he was younger, he once did something, everything, and you write them off. But to yourself, you always give yourself 100 chances. I can renew myself. But the other person, no. Hachodesh Hazeh Lochem, 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 to every single one of you. If it's good for you, then it's good for everybody else. Don't judge somebody else because he once did something wrong. Hachodesh Hazeh Lochem, you're ready to renew yourself now, but you know what? The person sitting over there who you think might be so bad, he may have renewed himself already yesterday, and he's for sure going to use the opportunity to renew himself today. Let's keep that in mind. Use this month, beginning of this month, we bench Rosh Chodesh, HaChodesh Hazeh Lochem, it should be a month of Ischachus and the month of the Geula.